All right, folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this live training. Here we're going to be talking about, Confluence for complete beginners. I'll talk a bit about why I chose to do a session on this or to bring them back as we go, but this particular topic is a little bit near and dear to my heart, I'll say, for a couple of different reasons. First, though, if y'all could give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me or not. Constantly paranoid that something's going to go wrong or sideways with my audio. All right, I have to make one quick change, and then we are just going to jump on in and get started. And Justin, no worries. That recording for assets is definitely available for y'all. And for everyone else out there, all of my live sessions are always available here on YouTube. So if you miss one, or if you've got a coworker or someone else who might be interested, it's very quick and easy to find it and make sure they get access. All right, getting some little hearts going. So we are just going to get rolling. This will follow a similar structure to my other live sessions. We're going to start out with a deck just talking about some concepts and ideas that I believe are necessary to really understand Confluence, especially if you're a beginner. I think back to when I started, and there's just words and phrases that I didn't understand. So we're going to just orient on a bunch of these ideas, and then we're going to jump into a live demo. If you have Confluence already, even if it's a free version, I recommend you can follow along. So if you have two monitors, put me up on one, something else on another. Welcome, Dom. Your entire channel is here. Great to see. Akriti, welcome. So if you can't follow along live, that can be very helpful. But please make sure you get hands-on practice. I'll talk more about that as we go. And if you can do it right now, that's great too, because you can bring your questions. So please don't hesitate to drop questions in the chat. I'll talk about how to do that in just a minute. A quick introduction, though. My name is Rob. I've been using different types of knowledge base and tracking software my entire career, and I started off in information technology. I was the person who would bring you your laptop or your desktop computer and plug it in for you. Since then, I've had different roles in IT. I've been a project manager, a traveling consultant, a systems manager, the help desk person managing a help desk, kind of all over the place. And what I like about it is IT enables other folks to do what they need. Welcome from Bucharest. And this for me is important because people out there in reality want to go do something they feel good at or that makes them feel good. They're really good at finance, or they're an excellent programmer, or they're really good at building ships. I don't know. And systems like Confluence should not get in their way. They should not be frustrated that they have to go log into a computer to do the thing they want to do. And so that's kind of my driving why behind IT, and it uses using technology to help other people do what they want to do, whatever that is. Now, I've been using Atlassian products specifically. Atlassian is the company that makes Confluence and Jira and other things since about 2013, 11, 12 years. And I'm an Atlassian certified practitioner, so I have a couple of certifications through Atlassian, including their only Confluence certification, which is called the ACA 920. I have a whole series recorded on how to earn that if you're interested. I'm also an Atlassian subject matter expert, so I help them design new certifications, which is pretty cool. However, I've never been formally trained in Confluence until I started doing all of these trainings. My first exposure to Confluence is I started a new job, and I asked, where is the knowledge base, or how do I add information to the knowledge base? And someone said, oh, I think we use Confluence. And they pointed at the screen, and they walked away. And that was my training. And that is why we're here. That is why I'm offering this session and all my other live learnings to help other people avoid that struggle. I learned by doing, and that makes sense for Rob. But I also acknowledge that for many people, that's challenging, and you don't want to spend the time figuring out the buttons or how something works or making the mistakes. So that's why I do these, to help people exactly like me avoid the pain and frustration of learning by, I call it, beating my head into the keyboard. So my goal with this session is at least one person learns one thing. That could be me learning one thing, or that could be anyone out here learning one thing. Now, there are different ways you can interact. I like YouTube because I can broadcast to a big audience. Dozens or hundreds of people, I would love to say thousands of people, can listen to me live and learn about these things. But it's hard for me to get feedback, so please use chat. It's right over my left shoulder on the right side of your screen. Please use it to interact with each other. I've seen some great interaction with audience members helping each other out or sharing ideas. I will also be asking questions just to gauge what you know. And I'll ask two kinds of questions. One, how do you use Confluence or things like that? And that you could type in a quick message. Or the more simple questions, how well do you know something? And if it's something like that, how comfortable are you with Confluence? A 1, you're not comfortable at all. A 5, you're super comfortable. And everything in the morning, everything in the middle. So wherever you are. So a 3, you're kind of okay. A 5, you're super comfortable or you know it very well. Tina, that is not uncommon in terms of training. So I'm really glad you were able to join us. And what you can do is after this, you can go help your team. And what I'll recommend for folks, as you learn things, share it with someone at your organization. This will not only help them, that other person will get this knowledge. It will also help you. It'll help get into your head, what these concepts and ideas are. And I see people already answering. I assume this is the question, how well do you know Confluence? Now, there are some other things you can do. You can subscribe to the channel. That helps the channel out, and like the stream. That lets me know what you're interested in. And if you have other ideas on training, on concepts, on what you want to learn, please let me know. I'll have a feedback form later in this where I'd love to hear your ideas on how to make these better. But just liking this lets me know, hey, these basics are good. And you can also save and share this exact link. So Tina, in your example, you might share this recording with your team and say, hey, this Rob guy gave me hopefully a good overview of Confluence and how to use it. But please share other ideas. Kari wants to learn Compass. I knew someone would bring up Compass. Compass, I assume what you're referring to, Kari, is an Atlassian product that essentially helps software teams find things. I don't know it very well, so I'll have to go learn it to help you out there, my friend. Oops, let me back up. Quick agenda. We will talk about some concepts and ideas. The goal here is to help ensure everyone has a basic foundation, that when I say a Confluence space, you all know what it means. Lalarjov, I hope I'm saying that right. I like that one, using AI. Now, we want to ensure we know these concepts because when you go look up spaces or when you go look up a problem, if you don't know the right term, it can be really hard. When I first learned Confluence, I didn't know what an instance meant. So it was very hard for me to get information about our instance. I didn't know what restrictions were, and I will cover all these terms soon. But that made it hard to find help, and that made it hard to talk to other people and have them know what I meant. So we're going to cover some basic concepts, and then we're going to jump into Confluence Cloud Premium and see what these all look like. Almost everything I show you will exist in every version of Confluence. Possible exceptions are data center, depending on your version. But everything I show you will be available in cloud. And if I do anything in cloud that requires the premium subscription or enterprise subscription, I'll let you know. The only thing I can think of would be Atlassian Intelligence, which is their AI tool. So a quick question, how long have you been using Confluence? And I'll take these question moments to drink some coffee, because I very much like coffee. Vivian took online sessions about 4 or 5 years ago. It was basic, haven't gotten hands-on. Hands-on, honestly, is the best way to learn. You can get a free version of Confluence all to yourself. I'm going to go dig up a link and share that in the chat as folks are considering this question. But for me, the best way to learn is just to go do. And that can be challenging, especially if your organization isn't using Confluence. Now, the free instance has a few restrictions. It doesn't have the AI tool, limited automations, etc. But for the basics, it's great because it's free. Kari, only 15 years? That's incredible, my friend. Christina, you want to earn the certification. I'll drop a different link to a playlist of all the trainings I've done. I will come back and do more of these live at some point. I'm cycling through them. Akriti, not uncommon, getting just thrown into it. So we'll get you set up here with the basics, my friend, and there's a lot of other resources that can help you out. So the first question, what even is Confluence? And my giant fat head is in the way. Let me teleport this over here. Whee! There we go. Confluence essentially is just a virtual space to do things. Another 15 plus years. That's incredible. So Confluence, when I first heard about it, I called it a knowledge base. And this is not a wrong way to think of it. Sorry, that's my coffee. After a bit of it, this is a bit of an aside, but there are no channel memberships. If you'd like to sponsor my coffee habit, please feel free to sign up for the membership. There's a couple extra nice things you get, like early access to videos and a few other things. But I'm always looking for more coffee. Confluence can be a number of different things, though. Knowledge base, in Atlassian's mind, is a bit outdated. That implies it's just something people go to and it's not a living, breathing thing. So they tend to think of it more now as a collaboration platform. It's somewhere virtually your team can go to share information, to build things, to learn about how the organization works. I like to think of it that way as well, and that's because my role is more of a project manager at this point, and as someone who wants to help ensure there's no tribal knowledge. My goal is that if any one person were to leave the organization, everything's in here. But that knowledge is also constantly evolving. We're understanding how our processes work better every day. Akriti, I'm going to just assume you're a project manager of some kind. Being able to collaborate with your team on understanding the current state is also important. It can also be accessible across the internet. So you might have a Confluence space you use to share product release notes with anyone in the world. Or maybe you have a Confluence setup that is very restrictive, that only your R&D team can see because you're working some new cutting edge tool, and anything in the middle. There's no real wrong way to use it. The important thing to remember is as long as your team understands how it should be used for your organization, that there is consistency. And that's just important so everyone knows what to expect. But for the purpose of most of my trainings, I consider it a collaboration platform, somewhere where people go to share and work on information in an organic, living way, not something that's just kind of a closet in the back where you stuff things. Now, thank you, Kriti. Now, when we think of Confluence, we have the biggest level is the instance, and that's our copy of Confluence. So when we go into Confluence today, we're going to be going into my instance of Confluence. And every organization has a different instance. Let me fix my head here. Oops, wrong button. There we go. Now, within the instance, though, we can organize it. So if the instance is like a library, and it's this nice building with all these things, within it, there are spaces. And these would be the rooms of the library. Spaces are just a way to organize information. This could be by department. This could be by project. This could be by employee, or anything else, really. Typically, I see department or team, and then project, depending on the size of the project. But in the same way a room of a library offers structure and organization to the materials in them, a space does as well. So if I go into the engineering space, everything about engineering should be in there. Spaces also give us other features, things like the ability to control access. If you don't have the right key card, you can't enter that room. Things like templates, the ability to quickly spin up new content and format it. We'll talk about those two things specifically in a moment. But keep in mind, a space is your way to organize information. And there is no upper limit to the number of spaces, or at least I haven't seen one. That might be something I go try and just see what happens when I make 1 million spaces or something like that. Again, typically, though, it's by team or by project. Now, within the space, we have content. And for this training, we'll mainly be talking about pages. I also talk about blogs because I don't think they get enough airtime. But a page is the stereotypical piece of content. It's what everyone thinks of when they think of a knowledge base or a wiki. It looks like a Word document, and it's just got text and maybe some pictures and other things. So a page is the main thing you're going to be creating and the main thing we're going to be talking about today in terms of content. But keep in mind there's other types of content. There's a whiteboard and a database and some other things. The content for me is like a book in my library. There's a book about biology for beginners, and that lives in the biology room of my library. There is a page about day one orientation in the onboarding space in my instance of Confluence. Each piece of content also exists within a content hierarchy, so we can organize it. And when we get live, we'll talk about that a little bit. But again, when we think of our library, if we go into a library and all the books are just in a giant pile on the floor, it's very hard to find what we want. So when we use Confluence, in addition to collaborating and sharing information, it also allows us to easily find or more easily find things that we can get at. Our next question, do you use Confluence templates? And what for? Templates for me are another feature that I was never told about, and it would have saved me a lot of time. What I ended up doing instead of using this feature was just opening up a page that I liked the look of, Command A, selecting everything in there, copying and pasting it into a blank page. This will do the job because it will get everything into the new page. However, it's really annoying. It takes a while, and I had to go through and delete everything. So templates are an important feature because it'll speed up our ability to create content. Kari's company is still learning what Confluence is. Well, you can tell them right now, my friend. It's a collaboration platform. And I'll be happy to, help train your whole company, Kari. Please reach out. Kima needs to adjust them all the time. I'd be interested, Kima, to hear more about why you need to adjust them all the time. If we don't get to it in this training, I do have a Discord server for chat. Please feel free to jump in there. There's about 120 folks who share information and knowledge about Atlassian stuff, including Confluence. Meeting notes, and Christina Elena uses it for templates for specific teams. Meeting notes and training lessons. Larjov, nope. Sorry. I hope I can change that answer by the end of this. OKRs and project library. Project management templates. Bandit, you should have templates on data center. It should look very similar to what I'll show you in here. Akriti discovered some templates. All right, so we are seeing some use of templates. Now, a template is just a pre-formatted page. And so when we think of our pages, it can be hard to get over. There's a term writer's block where you're just staring at a blank page, like, what do I put on here? It can be hard to get started. So templates give us a structure to fill in. Confluence comes, or at least Confluence Cloud comes preloaded with well over 100 different templates by the nice people at Atlassian. We'll take a look at some live, but this screenshot shows a few of them. And so you can start right out of the box with your free version. You can get a whole bunch of these. Kima, the Discord link's right above. I can drop it. I'll drop it again later too. Now, an important thing about templates is they're managed by someone called a space administrator. And this is just someone with access to manage a space. I'll show you how to find this person. But if you have an idea for a new template, or if you're using a template and you're constantly changing something about it, you might want to go find this space administrator and say, hey, could you adjust the template? It sounds like Kima is doing this kind of thing. But templates are just a way to speed up our content creation and a way to standardize our content. The example I always use is policies. If I'm in human resources or the people team and I write policies, the structure is almost always going to be the same. And the people reading them are going to expect the same kind of setup every time. So that will help speed them up and help it make it easier to find things. Now, templates are found in two or three different spots, depending on how you count. There is a templates menu in the UI or user interface that's visible, and it's just called templates. And then on the right side, when you make a page, you can access the templates menu and search through them. Typically, I find myself using one or two templates almost all the time. Meeting notes is the biggest one, and when I'm working with agile teams, like a retrospective or a sprint planning template. But depending on your needs, you'll be finding use for different or more or less of them. Oh, Gabrielle, I haven't heard of Smart Courses. Thank you for sharing that one. We will create a page using a template, though. Now, as I mentioned, these space admins can manage templates. So I'm calling this out here because if you're using a template and it frustrates you, just go change it. You may not have space admin access though, so you might have to go talk to that space admin. You can also make brand new custom templates. So if you're working with your team and they're constantly telling you, hey, we make the same page and we're just copying and pasting the one from last week, maybe you go, aha, I remember this thing Rob told me. Let's go talk to our space admin, maybe our IT team, and we go change that. We go make a template to save us time and make it easier to use the system. Whew. Okay, here's kind of a leading question. How well do you understand Confluence Access? And please keep dropping questions in there and let me know if you need me to slow down. And I'll say access and permissions just to clarify that a bit. A one, Beth, yes. Excuse me. Now, the reason I ask this is in my experience, permissions and access are one of, if not the most confusing and frustrating thing about Confluence and about just systems in general. And they're frustrating because most folks don't understand the concepts on how they work, which means when they run into a problem, they don't know how to ask for help, and the people who they go to may not know how to help them. A 1, a 3, a 4, Kimo just tries to figure it out on the go. That's how I learned it, my friend. That was very frustrating. So we'll talk about access. I use this onion photo. It has layers. There's 3 major layers of access control in Confluence. The first is at the instance level. So to even log into Confluence, you need a license. And this is what prevents me from logging into another company's Confluence instance. So if you don't have a license, you can't get in, period, full stop. Typically, your organization will automatically provision or give you a license when you're hired. So typically, new hires will just get access to Confluence, and you don't even have to worry about it. Sometimes you will have, your manager might have to create a ticket for someone, but typically by the time you start somewhere, you just can get into Confluence. But within Confluence, though, each space has its own set of permissions. So it's possible that the legal team, for example, has a space that is restricted so only they can get into it. That kind of makes sense because legal works on all the sensitive stuff. It should be locked down and controlled. I forgot one exception to instance access. There are guest users, which provides limited access to a certain space. And you can also set up anonymous access. This is useful if you have a public-facing page, a how-to document, or release notes, but that means anyone on the internet can see it. So I am overly paranoid with providing anonymous access because it opens up this content. At the space level, though, you can say, no, only certain groups of people or only certain individuals can see it. Pankaj, I hope I'm saying your name properly. Could you clarify your question a bit? I just want to make sure I understand it so I can provide you an answer. Now, within the space, each piece of content or each page can have restrictions. And this is a term that confused me. I think of just permissions. In Confluence, though, permissions apply at the space, and something called restrictions apply on the content. This is an important difference because when you go Google or go look up, why can't I find a page in Confluence, you might have to add restrictions to that search, and that will help you. But it's the same idea. I might have a human resources space, and I want everyone to see my policies, but I only want 3 or 4 people to edit those policies. Or maybe I have an engineering space with a super important document that I only want a few people to be able to see and only I get to edit. I can do that as well. So we have these 3 major levels of access control, and just understanding that these 3 levels exist will help you troubleshoot challenges. Because I guarantee you at some point, you're either going to bump into a page you can't open, or you're going to send someone a link and they won't be able to open it. And it's going to be because they're either not on the space or they're not on the restriction list of that particular piece of content. Now, there are global permissions. So again, when you join Confluence, and you join an organization, your IT team most likely has just set it up so you get access to specific spaces and pages. So when you first start, it's fairly permissive, and this is kind of the best practice. It should be as open as possible and as makes sense to your organization. So when you join, you shouldn't have to worry about getting access to the common things. You may need to request access, though, to certain spaces or pages that are restricted. So don't be surprised if you start your job and you can get into some areas and others are locked or unavailable to you. You might have to ask for help from IT or talk to your manager about getting access to specific things that are outside of kind of the global access. I'll skip this one on space permissions. It's don't want to get too in depth. And just a reminder, again, permissions are different than restrictions. Permissions apply at the space level, and the permissions are fairly targeted, actually. You can have the ability to view a page, but not view a blog. You can have the ability to add a comment, but not delete a comment. So if you find yourself, and that's by space, so it's possible you can comment in one space but not another. And so if you see those differences, you can take action in one area but not somewhere else. It's likely the permissions are different. And that's where you'll have to reach out for help to get someone to help correct it or explain it. And an important reminder about restrictions, by default, everyone in a space will be able to edit or modify content you create. So if you have space access and the ability to edit any page, and you create a new one, anyone with that same access can edit it. Again, the idea is Confluence is open and we're collaborating. So we want to make sure everyone can get in there and help build things. So just keep in mind when you first publish something, when you first make it live, everyone can see and edit it if they have space access. I need to change this question a little bit, but another question for y'all. How do you collaborate in Confluence, I'll say? While we're going, how big can it get, Pankaj? I will find a link very quickly for you. The amount of storage you get, I believe, is limited by attachment. Nope, it's instance. I'll drop a link, and this will go to Confluence's sign-up page. You're limited to 2 gigabytes in the free version, and then it goes up to 250 gigabytes of attachments and storage. By the time you get up to premium, which is what many companies happen to be on, there's no limit. But on the free version and standard, you're a little bit limited. Now, I'm asking about collaboration, again, because it's a collaboration platform, and it's intended to empower teams to work together regardless of where you are in the world. So it's important we understand these features. Now, the most obvious one that you'll probably bump into is being able to mention people. So I can leave a comment, and I can mention someone, in this case, Sophie, asking about a question for something. And I do this quite a bit. When I'm going through Confluence in my organization, I am constantly asking, dropping comments. Hey, is this still correct? Hey, do we need to update this? Hey, are we changing something? I think I drive people crazy with that, just because I'm constantly nudging and asking. But this is a way I can work with other folks, and I can make sure things are good to go. We can also collaboratively edit, though. So it's possible to jump into a document together and work on it at the same time, which is pretty neat. So I've had colleagues in India and in the US and in the United Kingdom all in one document, all editing at the same time. And we can also share content. That's the most common way I collaborate. I can see Israel saying asynchronous collaboration. I will constantly copy and paste a hyperlink to a Confluence page and send it to someone else and say, could you please provide your updates, that kind of thing. And that's another way to collaborate. It doesn't have to be in real time. Collaborative editing, though, for me is kind of a lot of fun. It can be a little bit annoying if someone starts stepping on your toes and editing where you're editing. But when you're editing a page, if you just copy the URL and share it with someone, as long as they have access to the space, they can go in and edit with you. So just one way to work together. There's another content type now called a live doc, which I think is in beta, that allows multiple people to edit, and those edits are live instantly. So you don't even have to publish. You can all work together in real time and get it going. I mentioned @mentioning, so using the @ symbol, that's the shift and the 2 button on my keyboard. You can @mention someone's name, and that'll send them a notification. And it's a great way to remind folks about stuff. I do this a lot in meetings as I'm typing. I'll say, ooh, @Rob mentioned this. @Sally said they would do that. And this just makes sure that you're keeping track of, who is responsible for something, but also notifying them if they aren't there, or even if they are there, giving them that nice little reminder. And comments don't have to have an @mention. Sometimes I will leave a comment as a reminder to myself if I'm building out, say, a requirements document and I have a question. Maybe I'll put that question in as a comment that I can go reference later and go answer. So it's just a way of leaving more information, additional context or follow-up on the document, so you have access to it at a future point. Okay, excuse me. Those are all of our slides. So now we're going to take a quick jump shift into Confluence Cloud Premium. Now, pretty much everything I show you will be available in every version of Confluence. The things to keep in mind that will differ: if you're on Confluence Free, restrictions aren't a thing. You don't get access to restrictions or permissions until Standard, the second tier up. And if I talk about Atlassian Intelligence, that's the AI tool, that's only available in Cloud Premium and Enterprise. Otherwise, everything I show you should look, if not identical, very similar, even if you're on Data Center. We'll be going through and we're going to be exploring Confluence, the setup and how spaces are structured, and then go in and take a look at a single space and go start building content and talk about using things like a template and how to edit pages and all of those things. Please keep the questions coming, though. I'll be keeping an eyeball on those so we can dig into the specific topics or areas. And I need to move my head a little bit because it gets pretty big. So what we are looking at right now is called this is the Confluence homepage. And we can always get to this just by clicking on Confluence in the top. And what it shows me is where I've been. Oops, excuse me, let me fix the zoom there. There we go. Kind of the last things I've been on. So if I log out for the day and I come back, I was talking about coffee sponsor and then overview. And then down at the bottom, I've got this feed of, people I'm following, announcements, calendars, other potentially useful information. Personally, I don't use this page at all. And that's because the organizations I'm at honestly don't really set it up well. But also when I started using Confluence, I didn't know it existed. So I never came here. It's just not my habit to come into this. So you might find this very useful, especially if your team uses announcements, which your admins can add, uses Confluence calendars to track important events. But it is a place you can always click on the Confluence logo to get back to. So if you ever find yourself getting lost or don't know where you are, this is a spot to go. And I guess another question. I'm curious if folks actually use the Confluence homepage. Again, just asking because typically where I work, we don't. Now, on the left, what you're seeing is the newer user interface. This should be live to everyone in cloud. Data Center folks, you'll see the UI probably up along the top. I don't know if and when Data Center will be updated. But I've got these different menu items. And one important thing I can do now is click on More. And I can actually customize this. So in the older version of the UI, I couldn't hide things I didn't need. But here, if I don't want to see the drafts menu, I can just hide it. And then it's not visible here. It's visible under More. So it's not deleted. It's just not cluttering up my visual space. I really like that change because before you were just stuck with whatever Confluence gave you. And you can also reorder these. So if I want starred to be on top and then spaces, I can just change it. Now I just mentioned starring. This is like bookmarking. You can star individual pieces of content, so a page. You can also star entire spaces to find them. So I always recommend folks, when you find an interesting piece of content or something like, hey, I'm going to use this later, click the little star icon when you get there. And I'll just grab this page. Oop, that's not a page. And then click on star. So this little 3 dots and star, and that'll star it for you. So it's kind of like bookmarks or breadcrumbs or finding a way back. And now I can see that policies page. It shows you the top 5 or 6, and you can always click view more to see all of them. Kari on the homepage. I probably should as well. There's a number of habits that I have developed over the years. You'll see me, I think I really offended my wife because I don't name every page I make. Terrible habit. I have a lot of untitled pages. Please don't be me. Please always title your pages. But she looked at me in horror when I mentioned I don't title every page. So I have a lot of bad habits, and using this homepage not using the homepage might be one of those bad habits. There is a spaces menu though. And just like we saw with starred, it's going to show me the starred pages, the ones that I find useful, or starred spaces. So I always recommend folks star their team space, or maybe the human resources space if they have questions on policies, or spaces they work in frequently, just so they're easier to find. It does keep track of other spaces you've been to, though. You'll see I've got recent. One thing you probably will not see is the ability to create a space, and this is usually restricted. Typically, the IT team will have the ability to do this, and this is typically restricted, so you don't end up with 10 spaces all called support team, or some version thereof. When we think of Confluence, if we think of it like that library, we don't want just anyone building another room onto our library. It will quickly get disorganized. So sometimes there are controls in place around spaces or building out different parts of it. Although I can just click view all spaces, and now I can see this massive list. This particular instance has something called a personal space. So you'll see spaces that are just named someone's name, Robert Heen, and have the personal tag. Your organization may have this as well. And this is just a space for you. It's somewhere that's for you to keep your own documentation. You can go play around, and it's typically understood that everything in there is just yours. I use my own personal space a lot. My own meeting notes are in there, personal projects I'm working on, things like that. So if you see spaces with the name of a person, that's probably what's going on. That said, you might find that spaces have labels. So this one's labeled as a knowledge base, that one is collaboration. And you do have the ability to search through and kind of filter down what you're seeing. So if I know I'm working on the JQuil project, I can just type in JQuil and I'll see all the projects with that name. And then from here, I can do things like star. I didn't talk about watching them. Watching a piece of content will notify you when there's changes. You can watch a whole space. So now I'll get a notification and email anytime there's a change to the space. I typically don't recommend that so you don't get buried. Vivian, everywhere I happen to have worked has had personal spaces, and they've been a great tool. They allow me to go in and just create stuff and tinker and play around, and I don't have to worry about stepping on someone else's toes or breaking something or making it unusable. I'm just going to pop into a starred space. So this is the Heen tech space. And we can see in the middle, there's the home page. So when we think of content in Confluence, it's organized in a tree, it's called, or a hierarchy. This is the top page. So when I click on the name of the space, this is my home page. Now, if you look at this, you might tell yourself, it doesn't look like Rob has updated this page, and I have not. Again, a bad habit I have. Ideally, this homepage, though, is a useful landing page. Imagine you're brand new to this company and you see this. This doesn't tell you anything about what the space is for. So we can go in and edit this just by clicking the E button on our keyboard or by clicking this edit button. And what we're looking at is our page editor. This is the same editor we're going to see when we make a page, when we edit a page. And it will look, again, similar to like a Word document. So in the middle, I've got all my content. And I've got some text in here. I've got some emojis. I've got things called macros. which are essentially little programs that give extra functionality. Now, this one on the left, for example, pulls in updates recently made within the space so someone can see what's happened. Up at the top, I've got my toolbar. There is a new option to make it floating, which I don't know where it just ran off to. I really want that back. Serves me right for clicking on something when I haven't used it yet. One of the nice things about Confluence is that, there are frequent updates to it. The challenge is sometimes that update just happens, like this new UI, and it confuses folks. So I always encourage folks, like I just did here, to give it a shot and see what happens. Just be careful you don't accidentally break Confluence or not know how to fix it. I'm going to keep talking about what's on this page as I quickly look up how to solve what I've just done. Now, there's other things in here going on. When I go and create this page, it doesn't give me a title. And what you'll see on the left is I've got a whole bunch of these. Where's a good example? Oh, untitled. Here's one. I briefly mentioned, please make sure you title pages. It won't give you a default. Or if it does, it might just be something like page and then a date. So please take a moment to give it a good title, because that's what someone will see when they're browsing Confluence. They're going to come into Confluence and go, ooh, what's this page? And then just see something called untitled. So when we think of Confluence and frustrations, that's another big one. Folks will not be able to find something if the title isn't done well. So I always take a moment to go through and double check titles of things. It seems very simple, but it's something that I see teams forgetting about quite a bit. There you are. Get back up there. Okay. I have now fixed my whoopsie. If you click this unpin bar, you'll need to select text and it will come back, and then you can repin it. As penance, I will put together a video explaining how that works. Okay, so at the top we have our toolbar. One big difference between Confluence and most word processing tools is we cannot change the font out of the box, and we cannot change the font size. And this drives a lot of people crazy. So if I add some font in here to pin the toolbar, I don't have that ability to change the font size. What I do get are these headers, though. And you might say, oops, sorry, I zoomed in too much. You might say, hey, Rob, that's basically font sizing. And it kind of is. But this isn't font sizing like we're used to. It's not a number, 12, 18, 400. Instead, it's just going to change the text to be one of about 6 or 7 different sizes. Now, headers are important because they visually break up text, but they also make a link. So when you're building documentation in Confluence, inserting these headers both makes it easier to read. People can quickly find pieces of content like get in touch, but you can also click this little link. And if I paste this in, this link will go straight to this header. There's some other fun things headers do, but that's the biggest thing to remember. It's how we control font size, but it also gives us easier access. Back to my toolbar, I also have some just general formatting, bolding, italicizing, etc. And there's some other options. I can do things like change the font color and, I can highlight things now. I say that a bit flippantly, but I just haven't found a use case for highlighting or adding color like that. Different text alignments, I can add bullet points. And then I've got some, I call this the fun stuff, other options. Confluence isn't just about sharing content. There's also ways we can do things like track action items by clicking this button. And this will allow me to record an action item. So think of it like a to-do list. I can do things like insert a hyperlink. I can use Command K, or I can select text. And I can click this button to do that. And this will allow me to link to any URL, but also link to other content within Confluence. I can do things like add a video, image, or file. And someone had asked, how much storage do we get? In the free one, you're limited to 2 gigabytes of stuff. And then in premium, standard, it goes up to 250, and then unlimited above that. We've also got things like at mentioning. I can just click this button to include the at mention and just pick someone's name. Or I can just do a shift 2 and add the at symbol. And again, when I save this, this will then notify this person, hey, you've been at mentioned on a specific page. I can also add layouts, which are essentially columns. So if I click on layouts, this will insert 2 columns wherever I clicked, which I can then change to up to 5 columns. So when I'm thinking of visually organizing my content, I might add these to help call out information or to do something like we see here where I want something side by side, recent updates in blog stream, because it makes more sense visually to me. Instead of one long document, I can put some things next to itself. I can also insert tables, but this last one, insert elements, these are those macros I briefly mentioned. I won't dig too deep into these. I've got another training somewhere where I get very in-depth, and I have a YouTube series called Wheel of Macros, where I spin a wheel and I talk about one randomly selected. But these add extra functionality to a page. They do things like automatically create a table of contents, and I can insert these by clicking the plus, or if I type in a /. So the table of contents, for example, will insert a table of contents just automatically based on the headers. So when you're using Confluence, definitely take a moment to check out what's going on in there, because these macros can help quite a bit with making things easier, laying things out, making it easier to understand and see what's going on. And again, there's dozens of macros. And one other important call out is your organization may have add-ons. Think of these like apps from an app store that give you more macros. I did not understand that when I first started using Confluence. And when I went to a different organization, there was a different list of macros and it was confusing. There's a link in the chat to go to the wheel of macros I was talking about that digs into specific ones. So now that I've made all my updates, I'll just click Update. And now these changes are live. So now when folks come here, they'll see this. And I do need to talk about templates. So I'm going to make a new piece of content. I'll just click the Create button at the top. I could also go into my content hierarchy. That's this thing on the left. And this is just the visual organization of the space. And you'll see that some of these can open up and there's content under them. So they have children. And some of them don't. And you'll see some of them are drafts. Drafts are only visible to me and to the Confluence super admins called org admins. And this is a bad habit. I should really get rid of these or publish them. But to organize this, I can just click and drag. Now, to make a new piece of content, let's say I have a new policy. I'm just going to click this plus here and click Page. And that will then make a brand new page. This will look similar to the thing we just looked at. The only difference is it's blank because it's a new page. So by default, they don't start with anything on them. They don't even start with a title. And this is where it can be frustrating and challenging just because, hey, I don't know what to put in here. Now on the bottom, if we take a zoom in real quick, there is this bar that shows up that contains some of our templates. And if I mouse over them, you'll see stuff just being inserted. But I also have an All Templates button. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to move my head. This is where I can see all of the available templates. I can do a search. So if I have a project management need, anyone that has the word project. And as I mouse over them, I'll see what they look like a preview. I can also use these filters to see what are the featured ones. Or I can just kind of browse through them. Please remember that templates exist in one space. There's an exception called a global template, but in general, every template is unique to the space it's in. This is frustrating because it might mean that this space changed this template. So it's possible the business status update template in the Heen tech space looks different than the one for someone else. That's another very common source of frustration. So to use a template, I just need to click on it, and that will drop it onto the page. And right away, I have some structure. I have something I can start using to modify and edit and create this. Akriti, I see your question. I'll get to it right before we end. So that's how to add a template. The last topic I want to cover is a space admin. These are the people who have extra permissions on a space, and they can control the settings and the permissions around them. It's very important to know where to find your space admin. So I've got a question for the group. How do you find your space admin? And I'll take a quick coffee break as you all consider this deeply pondered question. But how do we know who our space admin is, or how do we find them? Now, every space has a different list of space admins. So what I'm going to look for is right here, I have the name of the space. I'll just click on this more dots, and I'm going to go down to space settings. Everyone who can view the space can see this. I have some more options here because I am a space admin, but everyone will see this section called space admins. I think Israel just beat me to it. Yep. Now, what I'm looking for, it's also under general. I think it's general. Did they move it again? But I can click on view all admins, and any one of these people is a good resource to go ask for help. So I might go find Lauren in my company. I might send her a message or an email and say, hey, Lauren, I've got a problem with this space. Can you help me out, please? They all have this access. In some cases, they may not know they have that access. I know many people who are space admins who don't know what that means. So it's not uncommon that we go talk to John, and John is just unaware he has this ability. So in that case, I just keep asking until I find someone who can help. Typically, your IT team or information technology team will also have this access and ability to help you out. So it's always fair to go to IT and say, hey, I've got a question about this Confluence space or this page. I need your help doing something. And again, that's called a space admin. So if you're looking that up, that's where you're going to want to go. Teleporting back to slides. I think I've got one or two more. I forgot my teleport page. I do have a Udemy course that digs in a lot more into Confluence. This one lasts about 4 hours. And I built it thinking through, what do I wish I had when I started? Now, this QR code will take you to a discount link, so you'll get it at a bit of a discount. It covers everything we just spoke about and a lot more. It also digs into the space admin side of things, so it also talks about what are space admins, how do they work. But this is intended to be the complete guide that you need to start using and be successful in Confluence. So definitely worth checking out. And I'll drop that code right in the chat as well. But yeah, this is the resource I wish I had started with. It's also something that will constantly be updated as Confluence is updated. So if you do end up purchasing it, you'll get all the free updates and everything. And please feel free to share that link or that code with other folks. And reach out to me directly if you have challenges with it, or, finances are a problem, that kind of thing. This is pretty much the end of our training. We've got a couple more minutes, but I do want to talk about next steps. We have not covered everything there is to know about Confluence. There is a ton to know. This session was intended just to make sure you have enough knowledge and of skills to go in and be successful right now. So please review this recording if you need to. Please check out my other content though. There's other stuff on this channel for beginners, for Confluence, for specific content types that you'll find useful, but also look at other people's content. Atlassian's got a lot of great free stuff under Atlassian Learning. There's other great creators out there who help folks understand how these things work. And I'm not the only voice, so the more perspective you can get, the better and stronger you're going to be. Getting hands-on is also really, really, really important. So please get your own free instance, your free copy of Confluence if you don't have one, and I'll go dig up that link again real quick. Or if you have it at your organization, go start using it. Confluence instance, I think I called that video. Also, feel free to shoot me an email, robert@heen.tech. I'll be happy to respond, but also join us in Discord. Confluence instance. You'll hear me talk about Discord quite a bit. This is where it's going to be live chat and interaction throughout the week. We have a bunch of folks in there, again, not just myself, helping answer questions, direct you to resources, talking about their cats. For some reason, that's a very important topic on the internet. Excuse me. Ooh, itchy. I also have a blog, heen.tech, for more information, and that QR code will take you to Discord. We have a few more minutes, though, so I'm going to review questions. I'm going to see if I can dig up that list of macros for Akriti, but please drop your other questions in the chat. If I can't answer them right now, I will find a way to add more videos. I also do regular videos on different Confluence topics. So if you have a specific one you want, please let me know, and I'll be happy to pull it together, because I guarantee you other folks who use Confluence have that same exact question. And Akriti, I've got a list for you here. The link I just put in chat goes to this page, and my head is gigantic. Let me fix that. If you scroll down, this tells you basically what are macros, but about halfway down, macros available in the editor. This is a list of ones you'll find, and these are the ones that just come out of the box. Israel, thank you so much for coming. That's another reason I did this. Your comment about it can be hard to create content, and there's so much that folks like you and I who are familiar with this just know. Yeah, I completely understand that, and I'll encourage and challenge you to remember the beginners. And this is hard for me. It's like, what should I not assume? I should not assume people know what a space is. I should not assume they know where the edit button is, those kind of things. So you're very welcome, my friend, and please feel free to share this, or please reach out. If you need help training or figuring things out, I'll be happy to kick around ideas. Beth, you're welcome. The BPMN workflows in Confluence. I'm not 100% sure what that is, Akriti. If you want to jump into the Discord and drop the question in there, they'll hopefully have an answer. Vivian, you're more than welcome. I've got about 13 or 14 Udemy courses, so would love to see you in any of those. But I'll be here on YouTube. Again, I've got live sessions almost every week on different Atlassian topics. Can I recommend Jira tutorials? I sure can. I'll see quickly if I can find one. If not, I'll try and post one. Jira intro. Ape Tech Tutorials has some good ones. Again, in the Discord, there's a lot of them. Dom, you're very welcome. And folks, we're at about time. I do want to thank you all for sticking around and learning with me. I really enjoy doing these. Be on the lookout for more, and please keep your questions coming. Please keep engaging with the system. Please keep talking to others to get help. So thank you all again for learning about Confluence with me. I really appreciate it. Kima, I'm glad you took the course. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That one for me was fun because JQL can be really frustrating. Oh no, you can't hear me. Are you sure? All right, hopefully the sound works for some folks. It seems to be going out on my end. But thank you all so much for joining me. About time we wrap up. So thank you again, and I'll see you all again very soon.